All right, let's talk about love. It's probably one of the biggest, most confusing puzzles in life, right? So, what we've done is gathered the absolute best advice from six leading experts to create a kind of modern roadmap, one to help you navigate it all with a lot more confidence.
I mean, who hasn't had that thought? You feel like you're putting in all this effort, but things just aren't clicking, and you're left thinking, what am I missing here? If that hits close to home, you're definitely in the right place because our experts have a perspective that might just change everything.
And that really gets to the core idea we're going to unpack today. The path to a great, healthy relationship. It isn't some lucky search for a perfect person. Nope. It's actually about the hard work of personal growth. The whole journey really starts with you.
So, where does this journey begin? Well, it starts with the most important step of all. Before we can really, truly connect with someone else, we have to get brutally honest about the relationship we have with ourselves.
Psychotherapist Lori Gottlieb just nails it with this quote. What she's getting at is that so often, without even realizing it, we end up drawn to people and situations that are just replaying old, unresolved dramas from our past. So what exactly is this unfinished business? Well, it's the reason you might keep dating the same type of person over and over. It's why you find yourself in the exact same argument, just with a different partner. See, our brains are kind of wired for what's familiar, even if what's familiar is not so good for us. The only way to break the cycle is to see those patterns for what they are.
And that forces you to ask a really tough question. It's so easy to point fingers and focus on what they did wrong. But every relationship is a dance. And if you keep finding yourself in the same dance, you have to stop and ask, what are my steps? What's my role in creating this dynamic again and again?
Okay, so what does doing the work actually mean? It really boils down to three key things. First, you have to be aware enough to actually identify your patterns. Then, you have to take ownership. You have to own your part in it. And finally, you need what Lori Gottlieb calls wise compassion.
And you've got to understand the difference here. It is so important. Idiot compassion is what your friends give you when they say, oh, you're totally right, they're a jerk. It feels good, but it keeps you stuck. Wise compassion, on the other hand, asks the tough question, what was your role in that? It's not about blame, it's about seeing your own blind spots so you can actually move on. And all this work leads to a pretty amazing goal, something Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about a lot. The idea is, as you become more self-aware, more secure, and more emotionally healthy, you just naturally start attracting people who are on that same wavelength. You basically change the signal you're sending out, and you get a completely different result back. Okay, so you've done the work, you're putting yourself out there, and bam, you feel that spark, that intense feeling. But here's the million-dollar question. Is it a real connection, or is it just chemistry? Relationship coach Stefan Speaks breaks this down so well. See, chemistry is that exciting in-the-moment feeling. It's fun, it's intense, but it often stays on the surface. A real connection, though, that's deeper. That's about finding out if your lives, your values, your purposes actually line up. It's asking, can we really build a future together? And he also lays out some super clear red flags that you might be stuck in a chemistry trap. Look, if they're not willing to have the hard conversations, if they just brush problems under the rug, or if it's obvious you both want fundamentally different things, that is not a foundation you can build on. It's a sign you're wasting your time.
And this gets to something so powerful that we often just ignore, our intuition. Deep down, you often know really early on when something isn't right. But we talk ourselves out of it. We rationalize, we make excuses, because we want it to work. The message here is simple, but it's not easy. You have to learn to trust your gut. All right, so you've navigated that tricky early stage. You've found a real connection. Now what? Well, now comes the part about choosing to build something real. And to do that, we first have to bust one of the biggest myths in all of modern romance. This is where dating coach Matthew Hussey comes in, and he says our obsession with finding the one is, well, it's a total trap. It keeps us endlessly searching for this perfect, flawless person that, let's be honest, just doesn't exist. You can't find a partner like you're shopping online, optimizing for the best features. That's not how people work. And this leads to a huge mindset shift around the word settling. We have this massive fear of settling for someone, like it's admitting defeat. But what if we flipped that? What if we thought about settling on someone? That's not giving up. That is a powerful, active choice to stop looking and start building something amazing with the person you've chosen. And to show you just how critical this idea of choice is,
Matthew Hussey tells this story about a fascinating experiment with 2 rats. Seriously, stick with me here because it perfectly explains the one thing that is absolutely essential for a healthy relationship.
So in this experiment, you have rat A. It chooses to run on its little wheel, gets good exercise, and its body shows all the positive benefits. But then there's rat B. Its wheel is connected, so it's forced to run whenever rat A decides to. And even though it did the exact same amount of work, rat B's body was just flooded with stress hormones. The only difference, choice. That's the whole ball game right there. And it's the absolute truth for relationships. It can't be one-sided. It has to be a mutual, enthusiastic, active choice from both people. Without that choice, you just create stress. You need someone who freely and happily chooses to run on that wheel with you. But what happens when that choice isn't there anymore, or when a relationship has just run its course? This brings us to our last and maybe the hardest piece of the puzzle, learning the art of letting go.
You know, James Corden actually had this really beautiful, simple way of explaining it. He said, to imagine that love, a great relationship, is like you're holding a beautiful balloon.
And when you have it, it's so wonderful that your first instinct is to just grip it as tightly as you can because you're so scared to lose it. But if you hold on that tight, if you try to control it, the air slowly starts to leak out. And soon, the thing that made it float is gone, and now you're just dragging it. The very act of clinging to it is what destroyed it.
The real magic, the real growth, happens when you find the courage to just open your hand. Letting go isn't just about losing something. It's an active choice to take back your energy and to create the empty space that's needed for something new, a new person, a new beginning, to float into your life.
So, after all of this, the question we're left with is pretty clear. Are you going to keep searching for the one? Or are you ready to shift your focus, to do the work to become the one, and then find someone who enthusiastically chooses you back so you can build something real together?